host, More Yelvington of Morph Transform Your Reality, where I help women step out of trauma and reclaim their power. I'm so happy to have you here for this open conversation about moms, sex, motherhood, children, relationships, marriage, and everything in between. So grab your drink of choice and let's dive in. I'm so excited to have the beautiful Isabel here with me today. Hi, Isabel.
Hi, hello. So glad to be here.
I'm so happy that you're here because I'm really excited for our listeners to hear about you and about your story and what brought you to the podcast. So why don't you share a little bit about who you are and what you do with them?
Yeah, I'm an empowerment intuitive coach. So I help women mostly just feel very empowered within themselves. So overcoming their fears and their limitations that they've taken on from family, from society in different ways, and bringing that into themselves so that they intuitively can trust that gut feeling when they know something's off and they can trust what they feel is right for them to live their fullest life.
I love that. And so how about you tell us a little bit about you, right, and your story?
Yeah. So a little bit of my story is, right. So to be an empowerment coach, it definitely means I had to find my empowerment, which was not easy. I was married for 17 years. I like to tell people I did it the way that everyone told me in the book was written, right? Got married really young. I was married for 17 years. I had two biological kids. We adopted two. I had the picture perfect life, is what everybody would kind of say. Was also like the up and coming matriarch in the family. So I had all the family parties, all the barbecues, everything was centered in my household. But I wasn't happy. At the end of the day, I wasn't happy. And there was a lot that I always tell people, don't judge, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. My husband, I will admit, was attractive. A lot of people thought he was attractive. I didn't. I didn't. And we did not have that connection. And at the end of the day, I was the one that called it. I'll be honest. I said, you don't love me. I don't love you. Let's just call it for what it is. We got divorced. I immediately jumped into a relationship where somebody was adoring me, showing me the love, the affection, the sexuality that I just didn't have in the marriage. And then that didn't work out. And I'm single now and having a great time, embracing more of my sexuality, really stepping into my own. People are like, you're on a glow up. And helping other women do the same and not be embarrassed or shamed of it.
I love that. So what kind of tips can you share with our moms that are listening? How
Yeah.
to, how to keep that fire going in their relationships or where to speak up maybe when they're not.
I definitely say the first thing that, okay. I think one of the biggest things we do when we're in a relationship with somebody else is we self-sacrifice ourselves. And I mean this to the extent that you're constantly looking at how to please your partner and how to make your partner better. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea. I think it's a bad idea when you lose yourself in it. And I think in marriages, especially so many of us in the past, right? How we were raised was like your husband first, you're the submissive wife. So make sure your husband is happy, make sure your husband is pleased, and you put yourself on the back burner over and over and over again. And I think the biggest part is listen to your gut, trust yourself, and find what really makes you happy. Learn honestly, the biggest thing I love my mom, she's raw and real, but she was like, you got to learn to please yourself. You have to learn how to pleasure yourself. And she's like, if you don't know how to pleasure yourself, like it's over at the end of the day. And that was one of the biggest things that in some way was like a double-edged sword for me. I learned how to pleasure myself and I figured out my husband was not. So, and I was like, we are not combining. This is not working. So I think with women, and the best thing I would say is keep it spicy, have fun. I did have fun. I bought the lingerie, I bought the sex toys, I bought those things because it made me feel good. I didn't do it for him. I did it because putting those garments on and being in that role gave me a role that made me excited to please. So I would just say, like, for women, like, don't be afraid to make yourself be turned on by you. And I, rather than focusing on turning on so much on your partner.
I love that so much. And so how did you get to that confidence? Right? Because we feel like a lot of women, maybe they don't feel comfortable in their body so much, or, they feel like that's a lot of effort and they don't know if they will get a reciprocation from their partner.
Yeah. Well, I definitely will say, like, in my marriage, I had to, I worked out a lot. I worked on my own image. I worked on my own mentality. I did a lot of self-love practices where I loved myself, through meditation, or I gave myself self-love pleasure, or I worked out. Um, and somewhere along the line, I found myself, I definitely not going to say that I walked out of that marriage like I'm empowered fully and everything. At the end of the day, that marriage did not work out because the intimacy was not there. That was
Yeah.
a horrible experience as far as like them telling me to put clothes on because they didn't want to look at me naked and like just different things. So I went into a relationship where it was very sexual, and it was also somebody that was supporting me emotionally. And I think because I was being supported emotionally, I was able to play with my sexuality. I wasn't fearful. And I think the biggest thing is to allow yourself to feel safe in it, but you got to play with it. And I mean that in the sense that you might try something and you're like, I don't like this, or this feels weird or uncomfortable. But allowing yourself just to play and have fun with it rather than it's a chore, it has to be done. This is the way to make somebody love me. This is the way to make somebody like look at me. I allowed myself to lose myself in the moment of sexuality versus I'm worried what my boobs look like. I worry what my butt looks like. I'm worried about my position of it. And once I kind of checked out of that, it was like, oh, this is fun. Now I'm single and I'm like, it's a completely different ballgame from that relationship to now. I mean, I'm taking burlesque classes after this podcast. So
Oh my God. I love that. That sounds amazing.
yeah.
That is so cool. So it's amazing to see the transformation that you went through just from that place to where you are right now. And
Mhm.
so, what would you tell your youngest version,
Ugh,
right? The young version of you, or the mom that's listening and she's in your shoes with the unsatisfied marriage, doesn't know what to do, right? Not getting any.
yeah, I would definitely tell them, don't take the blame. Don't take the blame. Don't put it on you as if you're doing something wrong. Don't look at yourself in the mirror telling yourself those false stories of about your body or your image. Quit blaming yourself like you're the one that has to fix everything, because so many of us blame ourselves like we're the ones that have to fix it. We're the ones that have to make it better. We're the ones that have to, it's me, it's my body, it's the way I look, it's the way I act, it's what I said. No, at the end of the day, you came down on this earth for you. You came down for your joy and for your expression. Nobody signed a soul contract saying, I'm coming down to fix you and to hold you and to heal you. So you're in control of you and your happiness, and that is okay. And the biggest thing I would tell my person is my younger version, it's okay to want to be happy. It's okay to want more. You're allowed to. Just because, yeah, we get married and things change at the end of the day, you grow, you evolve, and sometimes that looks like your partner isn't growing and evolving with you. So give yourself permission to explore what that looks like for you, to have fun and to find happiness and to find joy. But as we all know, it all starts with ourselves before we can give it to other people. And I think the more that we learn how to adore ourselves, the more attractive we are for that other party.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's really about your self-confidence
Yeah.
and finding your voice.
Mhm.
And so what was your journey to find that for you? Like, how did you find your voice? How did you find the courage to leave the break a family of four, posting, everything you said? Like, you need some balls to walk away from that.
I remember like I would meditate, and in my meditation, I would imagine my future version of me. She didn't exist yet, you know, in a way she did. I feel like she's still there. And this future version of me, I would just imagine what she felt like. I would imagine her happiness. I would imagine love around her. I'd imagine that joy, and I'd allow myself to sit in that energy. And one of the biggest things is that like we fear change because we're not used to the new energy that it's bringing in. We're used to old energy. So doing so allowed me to be bold because I was like, wait, I want this energy on a day to day basis. I want to feel this on a day to day basis. I remember specifically having a dream. This is going to sound crazy. I had a dream. And in this dream, I was riding on the back of a motorcycle with this gentleman, and it just was like, oh, like ecstasy. And just like, I felt this amazing feeling that I woke up going, I want that. Like that feeling drove me to be like, no, like I am done with this. But it took at least a good 2 years for me to find my voice and speak up. And it looked like for me, it looked like hobbies. It looked like creating friendships. It created relationships outside of the marriage that would support me in making that move and that decision. But after I left, that funny story, the guy that I immediately jumped in was the guy on the bike. I did not know this, but there was a lot of signs. Like the guy had a tattoo, he had the same tattoo, all of these different things. Um, and even in that, I think I just had to keep learning I had to do a lot of inner child healing. I had to go backwards into my childhood where sexuality wasn't celebrated. It wasn't celebrated because, you know, my father cheated a lot. It was just like you kind of hid it. You hid it behind the doors. It was shamed. And I just got to a point where I was like, I don't want to wake up every day being the false sense of me, like this is who I am. But it took a lot of journaling, and it took a lot of crying, and it took a lot of releasing. But I always tell people, allow yourself to feel. And that's what I do as a coach is holding that space for women to feel, and holding that space for them to imagine and know like what that looks like, you know? And even in this last relationship when I left it, because again, I'm the one that chose to back out, it was because once again, I was like, wait, I know my purpose in life and I know what I'm going to fulfill. And that intimacy was gone in the relationship. I hadn't had sex in like 2 months. And I had told him, once the sex stops, I'm like the guy in the relationship. I'm like, if you don't give me sex, I'm out. Like, that's it. You know, it's quote, I'm too tired, I'm this, and I'm like, here, seriously? Like, like it's okay. So I think like the biggest thing is just own who you are fully and don't be ashamed of it. Like, and our bodies come in so many shapes and sizes, and quit comparing yourself and quit looking at everyone else and who and what they look like, and have, like
Yeah,
I said, again, have fun with it.
I love that. So, if our client or our listeners want to know more about you, where can they find you?
You can find me at Isabel Frank Healing um, .com, or you can find me at Instagram, Frank period Isabel. So those are
Nice.
probably the two best places.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this amazing conversation. I feel
Thanks.
like it light some fire in some of the listeners.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, go have fun. Like I said, going to burlesque class after this, taking the sexy pictures, posting them up.
I love it. I'm gonna check that.
Definitely. All
Well,
right.
thank you for being here. Thank you
You're
for
so
sharing your
welcome.
wisdom. And thank you for listening to today's episode. If this was a contribution to you, please share, like, love, and comment. I would love to hear from you more, and make sure to follow us on Morph Healing. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and remember, you are here for a reason. I see you. Love more.